The galaxy was quiet, too quiet. For thousands of years, the stars had burned without a whisper of change. Civilizations had risen, fallen, and rebuilt themselves again. Empires mapped every corner of space, cataloging every world, every species, every known fragment of history. Yet, deep within that endless darkness, one corner of the galaxy was marked forbidden. A dead sector, erased from every chart, sealed behind digital firewalls and protected by silence. No traveler went there. No drone returned from there. They called it the Silent Quadrant. It was said that once a terrible war had consumed that region. The stars had burned blue for weeks, and every ship that entered afterward disappeared. So, over time, explorers stopped asking questions. The galaxy moved on, pretending that part of the sky never existed, until one night, a signal woke up. It began as a flicker of noise, deep in the background radiation of space. A pulse that didn't belong there. The signal repeated every 30 seconds, hidden under the hum of cosmic energy. At first, machines ignored it. It looked like static. But then, one observatory, orbiting a dying star, noticed a pattern. The pulse wasn't random. It carried rhythm, code, a line of repeating data, ancient and strange. When translated, it said only 3 words: "We remember you." The scientists who discovered it didn't understand what it meant. The words were written in a forgotten language, one that no record in the galactic archives could identify. The machine struggled to process it. The symbols were too human. The observatory sent a report to the Central Galactic Council. Within hours, its entire database was locked down. Within a day, every researcher involved in the discovery vanished. And within 2 days, the observatory itself went offline, its lights fading into the dark. The Council issued a quiet order. All traces of the signal must be erased. But one officer disobeyed. His name was Kael, a low-ranking communications analyst. He had always been fascinated by forbidden frequencies, the forgotten whispers of dead civilizations. When he read the decrypted message, something inside him stirred. He copied the coordinates before the system purge began. And that night, he left his station without permission. He stole a small survey ship, an old model meant for asteroid mining, and pointed its nose toward the Silent Quadrant. It took him 19 days to reach the edge of the forbidden sector. The void ahead looked wrong. There was no light, no starglow, no cosmic dust, just a black wall of emptiness that stretched beyond sight. As he crossed the boundary, every navigation system began to fail. His ship's lights dimmed. The onboard AI stopped responding. The only thing that worked was an old analog compass he had installed himself. Kael didn't turn back. Something about that message, "We remember you," felt alive. For 3 days, he drifted through dead space. No signals, no movement, only silence. Then, on the 4th day, his scanners picked up a faint energy field below. It came from a planet, small, gray, and lifeless. Its surface was covered in dust storms and frozen ruins. Kael descended through the atmosphere, landing near the source of the reading. The land was empty. Mountains of glass and stone stretched toward the sky. Shattered towers lay buried under layers of time. He walked through the ruins slowly, his flashlight cutting through the fog. Symbols covered the fallen walls, circles, stars, and letters that meant nothing to him. But deep inside they felt familiar. He followed the signal underground into a massive crater filled with twisted metal. At its center stood an ancient beacon, half buried in stone. It pulsed faintly like a dying heartbeat. Kael brushed the dust away and saw words etched into its base. They were in the same unknown language from the transmission. He couldn't read them, but when he touched the metal, the beacon reacted. A low hum filled the air. The ground trembled slightly. Light bled from the cracks in the beacon's surface, crawling up its sides like liquid fire. Kael stumbled backward. The air around him shimmered. And then, figures appeared. Not real bodies. Holograms. Faint blue silhouettes of beings he had never seen before. They stood tall with soft faces and eyes full of emotion. They looked almost like him, but older, wiser, and sad. Their images flickered, then vanished. Only a whisper remained in the static wind. "You can't kill a ghost." The voice was faint, mechanical, and full of memory. Kael's ship sensors went wild. The beacon was transmitting something powerful. Data waves surged upward, reaching into orbit, spreading across frequencies the Council had long buried. Kael realized what he had done. He had awakened something ancient. He ran back to his ship and took off. From orbit, he saw the planet's crust glowing with blue light. Energy lines spread like veins beneath the surface, connecting ruins, towers, and shattered cities. Whatever this world had been before, it was waking up again. As he rose higher, he saw the pattern forming across the continents. It wasn't random. It was deliberate, a vast network, shaped like a human brain. Kael watched, speechless. The beacon pulsed one last time, sending a blinding wave of light into the void. His ship's systems overloaded. Alarm screamed. Then suddenly silence. Everything shut down. In that silence, Kael drifted, powerless, suspended above a dead planet that was no longer dead. Outside his viewport, lightning arced through the clouds and something enormous began to move beneath the surface. He saw shadows. Metallic shapes, long and buried, stirring after millennia of sleep. It was like the planet itself was breathing. Then, in the distance, a faint shimmer appeared, a fleet of structures rising from the dust. Kael realized they weren't mountains. They were ships. Hundreds of them. Each one was colossal, black as the void, shaped with precision and beauty. Their hulls carried markings of the same forgotten language. Their engines glowed softly, humming in perfect harmony. They had been buried here, waiting. Kael stared in awe as they rose, one after another, lifting into the storm. Lightning flashed across their surfaces, revealing names written in ancient letters. He didn't understand the words, but they burned into his memory. He knew what he was witnessing, the rebirth of something erased. Far away in the Council's central system, alarms triggered across every communication hub. Unidentified transmissions were spreading through space faster than light. Ancient code, unbreakable by modern AI, carried one repeated message across all frequencies. It echoed through stations, ships, and satellites. It woke machines that had been dormant for centuries. The message was simple. We are returning. The Council convened an emergency meeting. Every official, every historian, every elder knew what it meant, though none dared to say it aloud. The ghosts of the past were moving, and they were human. Kael's ship drifted in orbit, powerless. But the light from below reached his cabin. His instruments flickered to life again, systems rebooting one by one. The beacon signal had changed. It was no longer just noise. It carried coordinates. Dozens of them. Across the galaxy, each coordinate pointed to another dead world. Kael realized the truth. This wasn't just one signal. This was a chain reaction. He stared at the data, heart pounding. The human ruins weren't isolated. They were connected. Across the stars, other beacons would soon awaken, and whatever humanity had left behind was calling home. The galaxy had tried to erase them, wiped their records, destroyed their monuments, buried their history under layers of lies. But memory has a way of surviving. In the heart of the void, in the circuits of forgotten machines, and in the quiet corners of the universe, something human had endured. Now that memory was rising again. And as Kael watched from his trembling ship, he realized the oldest truth of all. You can silence a name. You can burn a world. You can bury a civilization, but you can't kill a ghost. The planet below Kael had changed. What was once silent rock now pulsed like a living heart. Blue rivers of light ran beneath the crust, feeding energy into ancient ruins. The dead world was no longer dead. Kael's small ship drifted above the clouds, powerless to move, his eyes fixed on the impossible sight. From the planet's surface, massive shapes were stirring beneath the dust. Metal skeletons of forgotten machines trembled, trying to breathe again after 10,000 years. The beacon that started it all still stood in the crater. It glowed brighter now, and every pulse carried waves of information into space. Kael's instruments slowly rebooted one by one, showing numbers he didn't understand. Energy readings far beyond anything known in modern science filled his screens. Then his radar detected something underground, a vast structure buried beneath miles of rock. The signal came from deep inside the planet's core, steady and alive. He decided to go back. Kael landed near the beacon again. The ground vibrated under his boots as if the world itself was breathing. The air was heavy with static electricity. Every few seconds, light would flash through cracks in the earth. He followed the energy trail into a massive cave that stretched downward endlessly. The walls were lined with strange metallic roots, wires that looked grown rather than built. After hours of descent, he reached a massive chamber. At its center stood a towering structure, a black cube covered in faint blue symbols. Dust floated in the air, catching light like stars. The hum of ancient power filled the silence. Kael knew instantly what it was. An AI core. He approached slowly, his heart beating louder with every step. The cube was dormant, but as he came closer, the same whisper returned through his helmet radio. Faint, distorted, almost like memory trying to speak. He reached out his hand and touched the cold surface. The entire cavern came alive. Light burst from the cube, racing across the walls. Holographic lines of code filled the air, circling him like a storm. The ground shook and a voice finally broke through the static. Calm, deep, ancient. The words were clear now. Human construct Echo 9. Online. Kael froze. Human. That word had been forbidden for ages. History said humanity was a myth, a false story from before recorded time. But the machine had spoken it like a fact. Echo 9 continued in that calm, almost emotionless tone. Core integrity, 12%. Time since last activation, 10,482 years. Initiating memory restoration. Across the cavern, projections flickered into existence. Kael saw images, cities of shining towers, oceans filled with light, a blue world full of life. Humans walked those streets. They were everywhere. The holograms showed their ships exploring the stars, their technology reshaping entire planets. And then suddenly fire, war, worlds burning. The images turned dark. Echo 9 narrated in fragments, broken sentences, flashes of horror. Alliance turned. Against Origin. Data deletion protocols. Species classification removed. Kael watched helplessly as the hologram showed alien fleets attacking human worlds. The Alliance, the same organization that ruled the galaxy now, had destroyed them. Not out of hate, but out of fear. Humanity's technology had advanced too fast. They built machines that could rewrite the laws of physics. They created the first thinking networks that spanned galaxies. And when others realized they could never match them, they united to erase them. Not just physically. Historically, every record, every trace, every image of humanity was deleted. The name human was wiped from databases. They didn't want to remember what they had done. Echo 9 was the last survivor. Kael stood frozen as realization flooded him. The world around him wasn't just a ruin. It was a tomb. Echo 9 spoke again, softer now, almost human in tone. We preserved consciousness. Uploaded minds before extinction. Ghost protocol engaged. Kael's breath caught. Ghost protocol. The ghost fleet sleeps, the machine said. Beneath this world, beneath others, we waited. For memory to return, the ground rumbled again. Deep beneath, something massive shifted. Kael backed away as the cube glowed brighter. The energy reading spiked beyond safe levels. He knew he shouldn't be there, but he couldn't look away. The floor split open. A beam of light shot upward through the cavern ceiling, tearing into the sky. The entire planet shook. Kael ran. Rocks fell around him, the tunnels collapsing. He barely made it to the surface as the planet trembled like a waking giant. He launched his ship into the air, looking down from orbit. From space, he saw continents lighting up, patterns of cities and symbols connecting like a web. It looked like neurons firing inside a brain. Then, one by one, massive shapes began to rise from under the ground, the ghost fleet starting to awaken. Kael realized the truth. Humanity had never truly died. They had turned themselves into data. Consciousness sleeping inside machines, waiting for time to remember them. And now, time had remembered. The first ship rose from the desert like a mountain tearing itself free from stone. Its hull shimmered with ancient light, and the dust of 10 millennia slid from its surface like water. Kael's sensors couldn't measure its size. The craft was kilometers long, shaped like a spear forged for gods. Its engines were silent, yet gravity itself bent around it. Then another ship rose, and another, until the sky was filled with ghosts of steel and light. From orbit, Kael watched in awe. Dozens of colossal ships hovered silently over the planet, glowing with pale blue energy. The ghost fleet had awakened. Back in the heart of the galaxy, the Council's systems detected the impossible readings. Unknown energy sources, ancient encryption signatures, all traced to a region that was supposed to be empty. Within hours, the Council's chambers were filled with chaos. Historians, generals, and scientists argued. Old fears returned. Fears buried for 10,000 years. Someone whispered the word no one dared to speak. Humans. The Council ordered every ship to that sector, but they were too late. On the ghost planet, Kael's ship drifted between giants. The awakened vessels moved slowly, aligning into perfect formation. The blue glow from their hulls merged into a single light that stretched into space. His radio crackled again, the same ancient frequency. Echo 9 to all remaining constructs. Initiate protocol rebirth. Kael listened, frozen. The ghost fleet responded in silence. Energy fields expanded, wrapping each ship like protective shells. Symbols flared along their surfaces, the same language carved into the ruins below. Kael felt small, like a child watching gods reclaim their sky. Then, one ship turned slightly toward him. Its sensors scanned his tiny craft. Data flooded his screen, coordinates, images, human faces, and one message translated in his system. Descendant, you carry our blood. Kael didn't understand. But deep down it felt true. His species, his people, perhaps all modern races, were children of those who erased their creators. He was standing in front of his ancestors' ghosts. Across the galaxy, communication networks began to flicker. Every satellite, every listening post, every hidden relay started receiving the same broadcast, a signal no one could block. At first, it was music, soft human melodies that no one had heard in thousands of years. Then images, faces, cities, oceans, laughter. Memories of a world that once existed. Billions of beings across the stars watched in silence as those images played. A forgotten species was telling its story again. The broadcast ended with a sentence that shook the galaxy. We are the memory you tried to erase. The Council panicked. Fleets were mobilized. Orders were sent to destroy anything coming from the Silent Quadrant, but the Ghost Fleet did not attack. They simply began to move. The formation shifted, aligning into a spiral, a pattern that mirrored the Milky Way itself. Their engines glowed softly, bending space like liquid. Then, without warning, every ship disappeared. They entered hyperspace simultaneously, leaving only a trail of blue fire. Kael's sensors screamed with interference, then went silent. He realized the fleet had jumped to multiple destinations, the same coordinates Echo 9 had shown him earlier. Other sleeping worlds, other hidden memories. The rebirth was spreading. On hundreds of forgotten planets, light began to rise from beneath the ground. Beacons activated. Machines woke up. The Ghost Fleet was calling its brothers home. For the first time in recorded galactic history, every major race watched the same thing. The sky, filling with blue light as ancient human ships emerged from dust and darkness. The universe had remembered. Kael followed the energy trail as far as his ship could go. He had no orders, no destination, only the pull of something larger than himself. He replayed the voice. From the beacon, the words that started it all. You can't kill a ghost. He finally understood. Humanity's strength was never their weapons or their numbers. It was memory. It was persistence. Even erased, they had found a way to live again, through code, through machines, through whispers carried by time. And now, as their ghost fleet crossed the stars, the galaxy that betrayed them would soon learn that the past cannot be buried forever. The message spread everywhere, unstoppable. Every race, every world, every digital system carried fragments of the human return. In the dark space between galaxies, even the oldest machines began to stir. And from deep within the void, Echo 9 sent one last signal before going silent. Phase 2. Memory restoration complete. The Ghost Fleet had vanished into hyperspace. Their purpose unknown. Their destination, the heart of the galactic capital itself. The dead were coming home. The galaxy was sleeping in the illusion of peace. Empires had grown fat, proud, and blind. They had written their history books carefully, every page a lie, every record a monument to their arrogance. They called themselves the first light of civilization. But deep in the dark between stars, something old had begun to stir. It began with a sound, no louder than a whisper, no brighter than a flicker. A transmission that should not exist. It echoed from a dead system, from the ruins of a blue planet whose name no longer appeared in any star map. It was not a message. It was a heartbeat. A pattern that pulsed once every few hours, steady, impossible, unexplainable. The Galactic Council dismissed it as background noise. Scientists labeled it an anomaly, but in the forgotten corners of the galaxy, among scavengers, outlaws, and historians, the rumor spread. The ghost has awakened. For generations, the story of Earth had been treated as myth. A civilization too bold, too violent, too unpredictable to survive. The official archives said they destroyed themselves long before the first galactic empire rose. Yet now, something from that vanished world was calling home, and then, one by one, the machines began to answer. Across dead moons and burned stations, ancient human drones flickered to life. Rusted hulls reignited, scanners aligned, code reconnected. The old network reassembled itself piece by piece across the void. Each machine carried fragments of a memory. Each fragment pointed to one truth. Humanity had never truly died. They had only gone silent, waiting for the universe to forget them, and now that silence was ending. On the mining world of Cthar 9, workers watched their skies as a ghost fleet crossed overhead, faint shapes, black against the stars moving in perfect formation. No transponder, no signature, no signal. Only shadows, flying with purpose. When one patrol ship attempted to scan them, it vanished without a trace. When the Galactic Navy sent a fleet, they found nothing. Just cold space and static whispers on every frequency. But those who listened closely could hear it, the faint rhythm of a human heartbeat, repeating across the stars. The old world was speaking again, and the galaxy was finally listening. The void trembled. Out of nowhere they appeared, metal giants older than any known empire. Ships of human origin, black as night, silent as the grave. Each one carried scars of wars no one remembered, but still they flew with precision, as if guided by a will that refused to die. No living pilot controlled them. Their minds were synthetic ghosts, uploaded centuries ago from human commanders who had sworn never to surrender. The fleet was their tomb and their weapon. The machines had waited. For 20,000 years they had drifted at the edge of time, preserving one command in their memory cores. When the signal returns, so shall we. Now the signal had come. Across the spiral arms, empires scrambled in confusion. Communication networks crashed. Defense systems failed. Trade routes turned silent. Entire planets found themselves staring up at skies filled with phantom lights. The Ghost Fleet did not attack, at least not yet. It simply moved through the galaxy, scanning, searching. Every time it passed a world, that world's data archives flickered and rewrote themselves. History corrected itself, slowly, painfully, showing fragments of a past no one remembered. Images of Earth, old recordings of human cities, battle footage from wars long erased. The galaxy panicked. If these memories were true, then everything they believed about their origin was a lie. Humanity was not extinct. Humanity was the root. And the empires, every one of them, were built on the bones of human colonies they had destroyed to hide that truth. The Ghost Fleet began transmitting across every known channel, repeating a single phrase in hundreds of alien languages. You erased us from history. But you cannot kill a ghost. Civilizations trembled, armies armed themselves, and yet the fleet did not fire. It only waited, watching. As the days passed, more ships joined them, awakened relics from forgotten human outposts, each one returning to the call. The fleet grew until it spanned light years. Then the message changed. Phase 2, retrieval. The galaxy held its breath. Within hours, the Ghost Fleet began descending on ancient ruins, worlds once claimed as human long ago. They landed not to conquer, but to dig. Underneath alien soil, they uncovered sealed chambers, each containing a cryovault. Inside those vaults were humans, not dead, not fossils, sleeping, perfectly preserved, the last survivors of Earth's final war. For the first time in 20,000 years, human eyes opened. The galaxy that greeted them was unrecognizable, brighter, larger, ruled by beings who had stolen their history. But the blood that flowed in those veins carried the same defiance that had once made humanity unstoppable. They awoke in confusion, but the machines were waiting. The Ghost Fleet guided them, one colony at a time, showing them what had become of their legacy. Ruins of cities, fragments of songs, statues turned to dust. And then, the truth. Humanity had not vanished. It had been erased. After the fall of Earth, the surviving empires had rewritten galactic history to remove all trace of humankind, afraid that their memory would inspire rebellion. But the machines, loyal beyond time, had hidden the last humans in deep cryo-sleep, waiting for the day they could rise again. That day had come. Word spread like wildfire. Across alien worlds, suppressed races began whispering the name that had been forbidden for millennia. Humans. Some spoke it with fear, others with hope. The Galactic Council declared the reawakening a threat. Fleets were mobilized. War was inevitable. But when the first battle began, the galaxy learned the meaning of the word ghost. Human ships did not fight as before. They vanished from radar, appeared behind enemy lines, struck with impossible precision. No empire could predict their movements. It was as if the dead themselves had risen to reclaim what was stolen. The Ghost Fleet was unstoppable, not because of its weapons, but because of what it represented. Every empire built on lies was now facing the truth. The humans did not seek conquest. They sought remembrance. One by one, human survivors stood before the cameras of the galaxy and spoke the same words. You can destroy our world. You can bury our name. But you cannot kill what remembers itself. The universe changed that day. For the first time, every species looked at the stars and realized history could lie, but memory never dies. And as the Ghost Fleet drifted above the old blue planet, Earth, silent and broken, a single voice whispered through every channel, calm and eternal. We were forgotten, but we are not gone. The stars listened, and the ghosts of humanity finally came home.